Hi, and I'm really happy to have as my guest Patrick Owens, the Senior Vice President of Retail Services at Transwestern. Patrick, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Chicago's your beat.
Chicago's my beat.
What's the headline?
The headline is increased activity. And I think it's sort of similar to what's happening at the show this year in that we're seeing new development for the first time in a while. We're talking a lot more about deals. We're seeing new entrants to the market.
You're talking about, when you're talking about a lot of activity, is there a particular product type that's more dominant right now? We're hearing so much, for example, about grocery anchored. We're hearing a lot about redevelopment of downtown for the live, work, play.
Sure.
What are you seeing?
Grocery is a main driver throughout both the suburbs and the city. What happened is a couple of years back, Safeway exited the market and closed down the Dominick's brand.
It was a huge headline.
And it led to an influx of many vacant boxes, and we've seen about 80% of those released at this point in time.
Wow.
Mariano's Fresh Market, Roundy's concept out of Milwaukee, came to the market and took quite a few of them. Whole Foods used it to rapidly expand. I think they took 8 of those locations. Local grocers ate them up, and some of them are being divided to junior boxes.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. Talk about some of the new concepts that you're seeing. We're hearing a lot, about such stalwarts as Macy's coming out, Target Express.
Yep.
What's happening?
We're seeing the Target Express, and back to that grocery theme, we're seeing the entrance of Fresh Time Farmers Market. Similar to Sprouts out of the Southwest, Fresh Time has come in and rapidly expanded throughout the Midwest and are extremely active. That they've contributed to some of that ground-up development.
Excellent.
Target Express have recently completed their first 2 deals in the market. Whole Foods are taking smaller locations and repositioning to larger flagships. They saw great success with their Lincoln Park location and are now doing a Lakeview location, which are both urban. They took smaller stores in both locations and are doing giant flagship locations and really anchoring neighborhoods with those. On the smaller end,
go ahead, please.
Restaurants are driving everything. We're seeing the pizza guys just like everywhere else around the country.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with food in general. We saw Chick-fil-A enter the market a couple of years ago, and they're up to over 25 locations now in Chicago. And so food's really a driver. In addition to grocery.
Interesting. You mentioned that a couple of the new entrants were in urban locations other than Chicago. What's happening in the suburbs, and is it the same degree of activity that you're seeing? Well, it can't be the same degree.
Correct.
But is it growing? We're hearing so much about how the suburbs are getting battered these days.
I think it's just a different type of activity than it was pre-recession. Pre-recession, everything stretched out to where housing was on the far reaches of the suburbs. Now everything's pushing back into redevelopment of centers that were negatively affected during that suburban expansion. It's a pushback to the density of the inner suburbs. So those collar communities where you've got almost city-like densities, but older, tired product that's now being redeveloped.
Right.
So it's a good thing. The communities that are hurt are those far out suburbs that were questionable when they happened 8 years ago and will be questionable for the foreseeable future. That's what we're seeing, less activity to no activity. We're seeing plenty of activity in the city in near suburbs.
So what's your outlook? When we talk in 2016, what's going to be the headline?
I think we're going to see a continued trend upwards. Chicago, unlike Texas, is a market that remains relatively level. So we don't get as hurt by the lows, and we don't go as high by the highs. We're sort of slow and steady.
Slow and steady.
And I think we're going to continue to see the trend move upward.
Much luck to you.
Thank you very much.
And it's always good to talk to you.
Have a great rest of your show.
Thank you. You too. And thank you for joining us on Globe Street TV.